Hello everyone and welcome to another video, and today I'm going to be unboxing for you all the Monster High Skullector Corpse Bride doll, and I am so excited because this is my first Skullector. I've never really been particularly interested in this line. I know that's a controversial statement, but this is the first one where I absolutely love the film. I saw it in the cinemas when I was a kid, and I watch it every Halloween, and my niece really loves this film as well, so it's got quite like a sentimental attachment to me. So when I heard this was happening and I saw the stock pictures, I was like, I'm absolutely going for this doll. Now luckily she's had a very, well, so far seems to have had a very good like widespread release. She's in Smith's in a couple of different countries, she's on Amazon, Mattel are selling them, so hopefully everybody that wants her gets the chance to get her. Now I got mine from Smith's. I actually saw her in stock yesterday on the 7th of August. So I grabbed her as soon as I saw her in stock, and she's arrived and I'm excited to open her up. And I actually haven't seen her yet. She's still in the shipper. So she's in here and I'm so excited to get her out. So I'm going to unbox her and you're going to see basically my first impression of what she looks like. I've never had a Skullector, as I've said, so I've never had like a big nice box, so I'm really excited to take all that in and then look at the details and the sculpting. Now I'm going to try and make this as in-depth a review as possible. We're really going to go in on the sculpting of like the shoes, of the body, of the clothes, of the plastic accessories, of the stand, everything. So if you want to have a proper in-depth look at this doll, please stick around and please feel free to like, comment or subscribe, because that would really help the channel. So with all that out the way, I think it's time we open her up and I finally get to see her. I'm so excited because I've never had any sort of doll that came in a big extravagant box. So this is going to be like, this is going to be peak. I'm so excited right now. I'm really excited as well because this is like my first big Monster High doll. I'm a very casual Monster High fan, so this is going to be like a big new experience for me. I feel like I'm opening like a giant pizza. This box is humongous. It's a box within a box. Okay, cool, right. I was like, how big is this box? It's not as big as I thought it was. It's literally in a little shipper here. So, right. Okay, so I've just punked myself. So let's try this again. Here we go. Right. Wow. There are so many details. Look at this. So cute. And I thought it opened like a book, but it opens like this. Oh my God, here we go. Wow. Oh my God, she looks so stunning. There's something about like a blue skin tone like I'm obsessed with. Like some of my favorite dolls have blue skin tones, like Vampirina from Brazilians. I really like Abby from Monster High, and she just looks so good. Look at that face. I love that like little like mournful like look off to the distance. It's so cool. So now that I've had a little bit of time to take in her details, I think it's time that we have a little look at the box and go from there. So what's really interesting about this box for me is that I thought it opened like a book, but you actually pull the sides apart and it reveals Emily in the center. But going from the top of the box, it says Tim Burton's Corpse Bride, and you've got like this really faint outline of Emily from the film on the left-hand side of the box. And then on the right side of the box, you can just see a little profile of Emily, and you can see Maggot poking out of her ears. And then moving on to the back, the top part of the box shows the chapel and it shows the bridge and the forest. And then underneath, you kind of got this little perspective of the underworld that Emily has been unfortunately living in for a while. So when you open the box, you can see Emily stood inside the chapel and she's surrounded by butterflies. And she has a little dust cover on, and the dust cover does actually come off. So if you don't want to fully unbox her, you can just take that out and you can feel and just have a little play with her inside the box. Then moving on to the sides, you've got more profiles of Emily, and they're really dramatic. Like, I'm so excited about this veil. You know for a fact that when I get this doll up on display, that veil is going to be over her face or just slightly over her face, because the drama of Emily's face throughout this film, when she's mad and her eyes like widen and there's like this bright glow, and just the drama of the veil, I just love it. I really love it. And then moving on to the back, it just says Tim Burton's Corpse Bride, it says Emily, and then she just has a little poem underneath that says, "Dearly beloved and departed, we are gathered here today to celebrate the unlife of Emily, who has found her way. Although she felt not ice, nor sun, nor candle flame, her betrayed and broken heart ached all the same." Until an engagement gave her hope a spark. Despite the pesky clause, death do us part. But alas, just as a piano duet must end, so too did her betrothal. She set herself and her groom free, heart more glad than woeful. Emily walked the aisle in reverse, exuding ghostly grace, luminous, her gossamer veil flowing behind her face. At peace she stepped into the moonlight and let go with a sigh, dissolving into 1,000 blue butterflies fluttering into the sky. Right, it's time to set her free, and I'm really, really excited, but I'm going to try and be as careful as I can with this because I don't really want to rip anything, because this box, especially the inside with the chapel, I just think looks really, really nice, and I don't want to cause any damage and ruin that. So let's get her out. There's quite a lot of tea ties in this box, and some of them are actually tea tying the outfit to the box itself. So if anyone else is struggling to get this out, just be careful because you don't want anything to snag. Now, underneath the doll is actually her stand, and there's a couple of extra bits and pieces there just to basically support her. I'm not really a fan of saddle stands, so I guess the pieces that they've included is trying to improve the experience with the saddle stand. Well, hopefully it works. I'm not a huge fan of doll packaging, but in these instances, I find it so interesting how meticulously everything has been tea tied and elastic banded in to keep it secure and looking nice. It wouldn't be one of my videos without me struggling to get something out of the box. Let's be real. Free elastic bands, guys. Unboxing dolls is a science. There's so many more tea ties inside here, so you don't rag on anything. That's what I've learned so far. It's mainly in the mesh material though, so I don't think it's going to cause any damage to the doll itself. She's free and still attached to the plastic. Tea ties, tea ties, tea ties. Come on. There we go. 1 of 3. There we go. 2 of 3. 3 of 3. Right, so I've set her free and she looks so good. But I just want to see what she looks like with a veil over her face. The drama. Oh my god, I love it. I love it. She looks so good. I feel veils are kind of a trend right now, because we've just had Bratziversary Jade with a little veil, and of course she is a bride, so she's gonna have a veil, but she looks so cool. Right, so I'm going to try and take this review as in-depth as possible. I think there's a lot to talk about with this doll. It may not look like it because the outfit is quite simple, but there's lots of little intricate things that I just basically want to show and talk about. And then of course she comes with a certificate of authenticity, which is nice and shiny on a little piece of cardboard. And then finally she comes with a stand, and it comes with an extra little piece, but this is because she has obviously one regular leg and then one skeletal leg. So they've given you an extra little piece to try and help her stand properly, because this is a saddle stand. So now that we've talked very briefly about what the doll comes with, I think it's time that we look at her body sculpt, because it is probably the most interesting part of this whole doll. So just a really quick piece of information. This stand is a little bit weird. I'm not sure how I feel about it just yet. It clips onto the front and it doesn't necessarily feel like it's on super secure on the doll. I know this is a saddle stand. I don't really like saddle stands, but I understand why they've given her a saddle stand, because it goes under the dress and kind of hides it. It's less intrusive than a regular stand would be. But yeah, so I'm not sure how I feel about this stand just yet. But with that out the way, let's talk about the body detailing on this doll, because there are so many impressive things going on. So first of all, as you'll be able to tell, she has one skeletal arm and one skeletal leg. And I've never seen anything like this before. I know that this may potentially be something that they had in G1 with Skeleta, but I've never held a Skeleta doll, so it's really interesting to experience what this feels like and the texture and the weight of these limbs, basically. Now, I will say that I feel obviously it's a skeletal hand and arm, so it's not going to feel as sturdy as the regular Monster High arms and stuff like that, but it feels okay. I would probably just proceed with caution, because the joints are a little bit more invisible, in my eyes at least, to the regular one. So just try not to bend it in the wrong way. But they're quite sturdy, and yeah, it works, and it's really dramatic and looks so cool. And also it's a detail from the film. Then, as you can see here, she has this little peeping of a rib cage underneath. Now, I would really love to see what's inside this doll. I'm not going to break her open, but I would love to see how they've done this. Is this just a little hollowed out piece that they've stuck inside and then glued it shut? Is there a whole rib cage inside here? We may never know, but I love that little detail. And then finally, obviously, her other leg is a skeleton. And this is where I'm kind of like conflicted about this. I love the detail, I love that it's accurate to the film, but I think it kind of gets in the way a little bit with the way that she stands. I think the saddle stands are not great anyway. I know that a lot of people have said that they kind of float on these stands rather than actually standing properly, and I can vouch for that. She's floating, she's not actually stood on it properly. The little clip helps with that, but I think the fact that this is a much lighter and less sturdy limb, basically all the weight is going to be on this side, on her left side, her left leg. So that is something to think about, just because I'm worried about putting her up somewhere high and potentially her like just falling off one day. But anyway, going into this hip, this is what I wanted to see the most, because as I said, I've never had a Skullector doll. I don't know what her torso looks like, but this joint is so interesting to me. So it's a sculpted, proper, like, hip joint. It's just so interesting to look at the two halves working together, like specifically this little hip joint. I think obviously this is going to make the joint much weaker over time, but I don't really necessarily see people playing with this doll. And if you are, good for you, but I think this is just kind of like a point of just be careful with this doll, because I feel like this could be quite fragile. And if anything, it would probably be the first thing to snap, because you've got the weight of the doll and it's not really necessarily as bulky as the regular hip and leg. But yeah, that is all the detailing of the body, and I'm super impressed with this. I think this is so interesting and so out there, and as someone who's a casual Monster High fan, something that I haven't seen. So I'm seeing this all for the first time. I think this is super cool. So now that we've had a little look at her body detailing, I think it's time for her to get dressed again, and we're going to talk all the way from her tiara all the way down to her shoes. So moving on to Emily herself, finally. She looks so good with the lights on her. She looks dramatic, she looks amazing. So starting from the top, she's got this really lovely, like, it's part of the veil, but it kind of looks like a tiara. It's got these blue butterfly slash moths on top, which is like a motif throughout the film for her. And then obviously she's got this mesh veil, which can go over the top and can just lay down over her hair. And for science, I've just removed the T-ties that were keeping this veil on her head. So we're going to have a little look really quickly at what she looks like without this. So this looks like it's actually all one piece. Yeah, it is. So that's kind of like sewn in. I don't know if you'll be able to see that very well. It's kind of sewn into the plastic. So that's all one piece. So I think this will go on more comfortably and sit well on her head. So I'm not too worried about that. So if you are wanting to undo it and wash her hair, I think this will go on pretty easily. And then obviously she's going to need a little bit of work, but yeah, nice, long, thick. This feels really thickly rooted. I don't know if you can see, like, very thickly rooted. Yeah, so this kind of does need something to hold it down. I'd probably, don't know what I'd recommend, maybe like a couple of pins, like some pins just through the head to keep it down a bit better. I mean, it sits comfortably on the head, it just doesn't look the same as where it was. She's got this lovely blue saran hair, and it just looks so good and feels so nice. I mean, it is a Skullector, so we wouldn't expect it to be anything less than saran, really. Then moving on to her face, let me bring her just a little bit closer so we can see. Her makeup is so good. It's in this place where, like, I can see both Monster High and the Corpse Bride. You've got these really dark purples around the eyes, which kind of like give that feeling of like eye sockets and like decay and tiredness, and you've got these really light lavender purples which kind of help the dark purple pop more. She's got a lovely little side glance, and her eyebrows are looking confused, and she's a little bit forlorn and sad looking off to the side, and she looks great. And then she's got her little friend Maggot as her earrings, and these pop off really easily, so literally like half a maggot on each side. Then she's got this really nice purpley pinky red kind of colour for her lip. And then on the other side, you can kind of see this little detail of like almost like rotten flesh that's kind of let her teeth show. And I love that. That's just a painted on detail. That's not like in the actual sculpt, but it still looks great. And I really like it. Then moving on down to her outfit, she's got this very simple like mesh layered dress, which is meant to be obviously her wedding dress from the film. And there are some little bits and pieces which are quite nice. Like she's got this little ruff around the bust line, which adds a little bit of pop of colour. She's got a little peekaboo here where you can actually see the rib, which is very much like the film, and I love that so much. That's such a cute detail. And as I said, this is just basically layers of different colours of mesh. You've got the white on the top, a light blue and a dark blue, and it looks nice. It's not hemmed. I mean, I don't know how they would, without it being really bulky, hem the mesh, but this kind of feels like something that's going to fray very quickly. I don't think the quality of this dress is that great, but we'll talk about it in my final thoughts because there's a lot to say here. Lots of pros, lots of cons, but then she's got obviously a little, I guess, like arm warmer / glove on her skeletal side of her body. And then obviously her ring moves on her finger. So I feel like you'd be able to take this off. I am not going to attempt that in the slightest, but I think it could come off. So just be careful with that as well. And then she's got this big plastic chunky piece, which is kind of supposed to reference, I guess, the forest and where she's found. And it's lots of vines and thorns, and there's a couple of little flower details at the connections. And then she's got this lovely blue butterfly just in the center. And it's nice. It is bulky. It sticks out quite a lot. So I think I'd rather it be a bit lower on her like this. And I think maybe if you pose her and kind of like puff out the dress a bit, it might look a bit better rather than it being just significantly bigger than the dress itself. And then moving on, finally, down to her shoes. She's got one little mesh sock just on this side, which matches her arm warmer up here. And then she's got these really cute shoes, which are kind of in this navy blue color. And there's lots of like drips and things dangling around. On her skeletal side, you'll see that she's got a little object heel, and that is Scraps from the film, which is really, really adorable. And I know people are kind of like over the object heels right now, but this is my first Skullector, so I'm kind of like living for this. And then on the other side, on her regular side, she's got a little flower on her shoe. And then her object heel on this side is, I'm assuming, is meant to be like a little reference to where Victor proposes and puts the ring on. I think that's what that's supposed to be, like a little thorny, planty tree kind of moment where the ring would just go on here. And yeah, it's really, really great. I love these shoes. They're dead simple, but they get the job done. I do kind of feel sorry for Scraps though, being like all of her weight is going on top of him. But anyway, yeah. And that is pretty much her outfit. It's not super, super complicated. There's not layers, things on like, there's not a lot of separate pieces, but it does the job in some way, I guess. It's not super high quality, but it's okay. Would I have liked to have seen a better made dress for this doll? Absolutely. As a consumer, I think it's our job to ask for more and more and more for the price that we're paying. It still does the job. I'm still happy with it. As I said, this is my first Skullector, so I kind of usually side-eye Mattel's price points, but there was just something different for me about this doll, and I really, really wanted to get her. So now that we've talked about everything, I think it's time to talk about my final thoughts. So it's time to get into my final thoughts, and I just want to say before we get there, take everything that I say with a pinch of salt, because this is a complete stream of consciousness. I haven't actually sat down and gone, I'm going to say this, I'm going to say this. So loads of opinions everywhere, all over the place. And just to remind you, this is my first Skullector, so I'm not really experienced in this ballpark. So with that all out the way, that disclaimer out the way, let's talk about it. Now, I'm actually really happy with her. I think that as someone who's a fan of the film, this feels like a good piece of merchandise for it. It's blending obviously Monster High with the Corpse Bride, and I can see the elements of both in this doll. Now, when it comes to price point and quality, that's where things are going to get a little bit difficult to talk about, because you kind of can't really talk about just the fashion and the doll, because there's so much more going on than just those two things. You've got probably a bit of the budget is for the packaging, some of it is for the sculpting and how the body's made, some of it's for the accessories that are new, like for example Maggot's ears and Scraps on the heels. And I feel like the fashion and the actual dress was probably the last priority when this doll was made. But I would say for a £60 doll, this dress is not good quality. it's really, really not what I would expect. Like, not to be that person, but there's some Bratz dolls that I bought recently which have better quality than this doll. This was £60 and they were like £24.99. And does that make me dislike her? Absolutely not, because I actually think that this dress does the job that it's supposed to do. But with a lot of the Skullectors, I feel like the price point is not necessarily justified, but there is the box, the sculpting, the fact it's an IP and a collaboration that may drain some of the budget. But I do feel like that there was room for this dress to be a better, more impressive part. Now, I would have actually liked Victor to be a part of this set. And I know that's kind of like a controversial statement to make, because I feel like a lot of people are just kind of like, no, we don't want male dolls. We're not interested. And I know Victor isn't really a monster, so I can understand why he was excluded from a Monster High collab. But I think that he's such a vital part of the film that I would have loved to have seen him in this pack too. With that said, the budgeting and how everything has been allocated to this doll as it is, I think if Victor was in this pack, the quality of Emily would have dropped massively. And I don't think I would have liked to have seen her in any other form or any less form than this. I think she looks great. I love her makeup. Maggot being her earrings is just so cute and so film accurate, and I love it. And yeah, I'm really, really happy with her. I love the fact that they really did go in with the detailing of the skeletal arm, skeletal leg. It's impressive. It's really, really great. The packaging is great, and I'm really, really happy with that as well. The stand, I am not so happy about. I think that there must be some way that Mattel could have done something differently, because this is such a specific doll with such a specific body mold that, yes, they've thrown in an extra clip, but she's still floating about. She's still floating, she's flying, and I don't necessarily feel like she's on there very securely. So that's a bit of a gripe for me, is the stand is not great. There are places that we can critique this doll. There are places that we can just critique Mattel in general. Would I have liked a better quality dress? Absolutely. Should we hold Mattel to a higher standard when it comes to these things? Absolutely. When I saw this doll, I was like, because I love this film, I'm gonna get her and I'm gonna enjoy her. But I still think that Mattel's price points for a lot of their dolls across the board, Barbie, My Scene, Monster High, I think their price points tend to be a little bit suspicious. Let's just say the quality doesn't usually match the price point, in my opinion. You may disagree, that's perfectly fine. But I don't want this to be like a really heavily negative take on this doll. I really like her. Emily looks great. And yeah, I'm really, really happy with her. I'm excited to give her a little bit of a wash and do her hair and make her look really, really nice and ready for display. I'm not excited about trying to figure out how to get this on properly and stay on. I mean, it fits, it does fit. It's not snug, it doesn't stay in one position, but maybe I could get some pins and pin it in so it stays on her head properly. I'm also not in the Monster High fan base very much. I'm a completely casual fan. I pick a doll that I like, I buy it, and I move on. So I don't really know what the reception to Emily has been. I like her. I think she's great. I'm not necessarily a fan of the price point. I don't know if it is justified, but I will accept it for now. I think this is more of a conversation about like where budget was allocated. I think we should always hold toy companies and just companies in general in all aspects of life to a higher standard. We should always try and get as much of our money's worth as possible. Now, with all that said, I do really, really love her, and I'm really happy that I got her, and I think a lot of people are going to really enjoy her. That's pretty much all I have to say today about Emily. And yeah, if you are new here, my name is Lyle. I make regular content based around loads of different doll brands. Feel free to have a little look at all the videos that I've made so far. I make content about Bratz, Bratzillas, Monster High, Shadow High, loads of different doll brands. And I would love to have you a subscriber and a regular viewer on this channel. So with all that said, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Feel free to like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.